Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. This week, Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer unpacks the latest developments in hydrogen and how climate change is affecting coal miners. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Sashni.
Now, Hydrox Holdings is dipping its toes into mine water, seawater, and brackish water, being used for hydrogen production.
Yes, now acid mine drainage has always been considered a curse, the legacy of the mining industry. You know, they've left behind this dirty water which is going to surface at some stage, and it's going to actually do a lot of damage on surface. Now, what this company wants to do is to take that curse and turn it into a blessing. So they want to get hydrogen from that water. Water is H2O. There's hydrogen in it. They want to split that, extract the hydrogen, and then they want to have a system here where they've got single pumps at our filling stations so that vehicles can come up and fill up with hydrogen. And we remember the days of Sasol when Sasol wasn't as big as it is now, didn't have its own filling stations. They used to have a single pump policy, and you'd have the single Sasol pump where you could go and get Sasol if you wanted that fuel. Now, in the promotion of hydrogen as a fuel, which is cleaner and more superior to the oil that we use and the normal fuel we use in terms of mitigating climate change, they feel they could go back to the single pump idea and not even in the initial stages have transport by vehicle. You can have a container there with the hydrogen, and you can replace it as needed. So it's very innovative, but the big thing is that they're saying they can compete with the petrol price. That's their target, to compete with the petrol price. Now, this could be fantastic for our taxi fleet. You know, if our taxis then move to hydrogen, and Toyota could do it because they know they've got vehicles already that run. This would change the economics of taxi business. It could be quite a big thing for it, and at the same time they could be the trendsetters in moving towards the new energy arrangement and possibly get incentivized to do that.
And speaking of new energy, clean hydrogen is also tipped to replace oil one day.
Yeah, you see, this is what they're looking at. You know, the Germans have been able to take that hydrogen, which is quite a gas that people are scared of because they remember the Hindenburg when it exploded, but they carry it with an oil carrier. The Germans have worked out this special technology where you can use the oil carrier for this. So that means you can transport hydrogen just like you transport oil now. So all the facilities that can take oil can now take hydrogen. So it could become this universal spread. Your ships that take oil can take hydrogen in this form. Then they've got a way of decarrying again. So it goes back into gas. So it's a very clever process that they've got, and it's also very useful because it can absolutely use the transport facilities that we've got, the tankers that you see running around, and the tanks underground that hold the petrol at the moment and the diesel. These can be filled with hydrogen, but the advantage is you can put so much more hydrogen in there than you can with the normal fuel. So it means that you've got bigger capacity. People won't have to keep filling as much. So there are a lot of advantages, and the world is looking at this now. You can see the Hydrogen Council in the world has got the biggest names of companies on it. They started off a couple of years ago with 13 companies, and now up to 60 companies, and these are companies that are in oil, so they can see this as a possible future universal carrier.
So tell us how climate change is affecting the insurance premiums of Exxaro.
Yeah, you see now you have a coal miner like Exxaro. It's out there producing coal for Eskom, and it's exporting. All of a sudden, it's faced with carbon taxes, and now when it goes to reinsure its business, the premiums go up because they say, you know, the risk is greater. So the world is starting to see fossil fuels as a risk. And the far-sighted companies are working well in advance to make sure that they don't get caught with stranded assets. You know, you don't want to have coal mining companies here that have bought and actually expanded, and all of a sudden they find, oh, there's no longer the same demand, and suddenly these just stop. That's what we don't want. There needs to be a really good organized changeover. And I think Exxaro is an absolute example of this. They are watching, they realize there's going to need to be structural change here. They are huge in coal. They know that there's a new horizon coming where people are cold shouldering coal. If they want to get money from banks don't want to give them money. You know, there are all sorts of social groups telling them they shouldn't do this. But they are very intent on making sure that there's a just transition. You know, when you go from coal mining, fossil fuel, into, say, renewable energy and sun energy, it's got to be done in a just fashion, and people have got to be looked after, particularly poor mining communities, etc., that rely on their mining activities. So they're very conscious of that, and they're calling for proper plans to be introduced. In the meantime, of course, they've already got a 50% shareholding in a company with Tata that is producing sun energy, that is producing wind energy. So they're already, we're far-sighted enough to see themselves not just in fossil fuels, but in energy at large. And this is probably going to be the saving grace of many of the companies that are in fossil fuels at the moment. It's just not fashionable at the moment. The financial arrangements are bad. The insurance companies, they want higher insurance because they see bigger risk. Carbon tax, you start having to pay carbon tax. So there are a lot of impediments, and this is then pushing people towards the new renewable energy arrangement that is there to mitigate climate change, which is the planet's biggest problem at the moment.
Thanks for speaking with us.
It's a great pleasure, Sashni.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on the local and global mining industries. And don't forget to listen to the audio version of our Mining Weekly daily email newsletter.